It's really a big honor to speak in front of all of you. Needless to say, and I really mean this deep down from my heart, I think my heart is here, that it was a childhood dream to be talking in Oxford. And even so, this is only virtual. Still, a dream comes. So thank you for this. And having said this, excuse me if I'm a bit nervous, even so I shouldn't be. In Germany, the pandemic officially started exactly 1 year ago. So on the 16th of March, 2020, everything was closed down. And basically within minutes, we had to decide how to continue our career. And when we always say our, I'm surely talking for all of us. So we did quick decisions. We did not very radical, but very, sustainable decisions. And I'm very happy to be able to talk to you now 1 year after and share my experience and my insight, what happened exactly within 1 year of Corona. And I just want to stress this as a disclaimer. I will try to see the whole situation as possible. I will try to see it, as Maya also mentioned it in the invitation, rather as a chance. Of course it's a challenge, but I want that we also as a group, try to figure out together opportunities. And I will give you best proof, especially 2 participants from last year's Sofa Edition started the businesses, their projects during the pandemic. So from my side, just a housekeeping rule, I will try, and I'm talking rather to myself, not to talk so much about my festival experience. Maya mentioned almost 20 years at Berlinale, being responsible for outstanding filmmakers, many of them getting awards, many of them actually getting the Golden Bear, the main awards. Ildiko, Yasmila Spanish, congratulations again, just yesterday nominated for the Oscars. So we keep fingers crossed. I worked also in smaller sized festivals, a great festival in Palic in Serbia, in the Vojvodina region, which was only showing European cinema and got awarded as one of the best European festival. I helped build up Zurich, a festival that is now really a main event in the festival calendar. But I will try to, not talk all about this, but focus rather on SOFA. Even so, I will mention maybe my own festivals just to give you an insight in how this all fitted in a kind of strategy. And now talking to you, I'd like to see it as a strategy, maybe as a career during the whole process, as always, and I'm sure it will be always also with all of you in the future. It was, I don't know, maybe it was luck, maybe it was rather intuition, it was this gut feeling, but what I will, refer, I tried to do it in a short time. Of course, it was not as planned and, as designed as it might look. I always just like to stress this point. So the main thing, as mentioned, will be SOFA, School of Film Advancement, and let's say the slogan, creating individual dream jobs in the new media reality. So who am I? What do I do? I have a quite long CV, but I try to give it short. I always have to talk about myself. It's not, an ego thing, but it's a thing that explains my way, because my way is very much connected to, let's say, all my background, and this always reflects what I managed to create out of my own background. Somehow very early on in the day, realized that it's really important to work with your roots and not against this roots. So I tried, to figure out a way, how to do what I like, and somehow to what my parents, I'm always very grateful to them, and my cultural experience gave to me. So when I was 7, I left the Soviet Union, or my parents took me basically out. It was 81. You still remember this dark force called Soviet Union. I always like to, those of you who are younger and the reference, is of course the Star Wars trilogy. It was a little bit like the Dark Star. So I got out. I was a little bit the Luke Skywalker. I came back in. Han Solo helped me to destroy that thing. In 89, it all collapsed. So there I was as a little boy in Germany, growing up, and I loved cinema. So honestly, and I'm very open about this, I loved cinema. I loved sitting on my couch and watching television, of course, because this was the most easy access to watch movies. But I was really doing this using also their Truffaut as an example. I was skipping school to go to the cinema to watch movies on the big screen. So this was for me very early on, a passion, a dream, really a huge part of my life. I didn't do much sport. Luckily, I did some readings, but movie, what was it, right? So when the first, let's say, somehow attempts to do something that were already in high school, we had a high school newspaper, surely like many of you, I started to write reviews. And just to do something with this passion for cinema. Luckily, my parents were always allowing me cinema. We were watching many films together. Just as a side note, my dad is a philosopher, very smart man. He taught me also how to look at cinema differently. You all might know Siegfried Krakauer, this great German theoretician, who always said that cinema is mirror on society, and they're also saying cinema is a mirror to the world. We all know this, especially now, of course, during Corona. So I always had, this passion for it, this different approaches. So I started to write. I have to go to university. Still, I think cinema is great, but I want to do something more serious, also for my beloved parents. So I do art history. Well, let's close enough. And then as a second in Germany, where the model you have to have 3. So I did art history, film, and Slavic languages. And then something very, very important happened. And this is maybe the first indication that I didn't plan anything in my life at all. But one night I was hanging out with friends. And in the middle of the night, we had the idea to create an own film magazine. And basically the wish back then, I will be very open with you, was also there very, selfish and lazy. There's a reason why the project is called Sofa, because, I just like to lie on the couch and relax. I wanted to be published also. I didn't want to waste time. I didn't want to be in the situation to write articles with all what I know, which also what I learned in university, send the articles to somebody, and then wait if they're going to be published or not. So for me, being the little boy I was, what the shortcut was, why not creating an own magazine? Why not creating an own fanzine? I think that's what you call it in England. So next day, basically, we sat down with a couple of friends and said, yeah, why not? So what came out of it was this. I just put it into the camera, and images says a lot. So it was black and white. It was very small, but it tried to be very serious from the beginning on. You see there is Baudrillard, there's Giga Vertov, Tarantino and Venice, I always like to mention, one of the best movies ever made, but it was simple, black and white, always a little bit about film history, about film theory. There were basically only three things that make this magazine different than the others. And at that moment, there were around 20 film magazines out there. So we had 3 departments. We had basically all the reviews, all the current stuff, film reviews. Then we had a big topic, which was always a rather film historical or a film analytic one. And then we had, let's say, everything else. Yeah, so festival reviews and whatever came to our mind. The thing that was very special was always connected to the cover. It was called Preisschnitt, which means 3 cuts, because I have to say this. So Schnitt means basically editing. The title montage was taken, but I wanted to connect somehow to cinema, and of course editing, montage. There again, my Russian background, Eisenstein, I'm not gonna stress it. We had 3 articles on the same movies with different approaches. So within the magazine itself, in printed time, we're talking about 95. We managed to have let's say, a communication going on within the own magazine. And this was something new. This was something that the market didn't have back then. It didn't have that there were 3 reviews to the same film. And of course, my goal as the publisher editor-in-chief was always to find 3 people with, let's say, a rather different opinion, right? So it was not even how great the film was. And this was sometimes rather difficult, especially, if we look at this film, finding somebody who didn't like it. But I was looking so much for somebody who rather didn't like it or had, such a different approach. So this somehow worked. We were the first ones to write regularly about short films, about documentaries. So we were also giving space to genres which are usually not so much reflected by film critics. I'm stressing this because this was 1995. This was black and white, had a circulation of 1,500 copies. Basically, we hand distributed it within our university. Cut, and then a couple of years later, you know, many more pages, a lot of color, a lot of advertisement, another cut, you know, a different design, seriously paid advertisement. We were doing this for 15 years. Then I stepped down with my colleague, and within 15 years, of course, I started to know people. So I started basically to travel, and I started to build my network. So building this network, basically, I had this situation that I was, let's say, moving around, going to festivals and basically crashing parties. I'll be very honest, you know, film festivals, it's a lot about crashing parties. So we went to the premieres, we went to Berlinale, all the other festivals, we saw 30, 40 films within 1 week. In the evening, we crashed parties. And then we were like, okay, but now we're getting this reputation that we're the party crashers. So we have to, you know, give something back. We have to give something back to the community. And this was a very serious approach because we were afraid, you know, we're these youngsters, people might not take us seriously. So I said, okay, we need to make a party. But then again, we have this very, you know, serious art history, film theory, background. So I don't know, we published text by Kazimir Malevich on cinema. We found some old articles. We did one a topic on Czech avant-garde film of the 1920s. So, you know, more hardcore you actually can't go. So we said, okay, we need to do a party, but we need to have a reason. So then we were thinking for a very long time, what would be the reason? And then again, you know, as simple as it might be, the magazine is called Schnitt, which means editing, montage. And we thought, there are so many prizes out there. There's so many awards out there. The basically only thing, and of course it's not the only thing, but from our background back then, it seemed like the only thing that is missing is actually an award for best editing, for best montage, because it's all, and you all know this, it's so much focus on the director, of course, always on the actors. In recent years, you know, some of the departments were becoming stronger, more known, like for DOPs or production designer, but back then, nobody was really talking about editors. On the other side, you know, reading Eisenstein and knowing that basically editing, montage, that's the core of cinema. This is what makes cinema cinema. We said, well, okay, why we are not gonna do an award for editors? Simple as that. And if we do an award, we do a party. So a couple of years later, we started with this award. The very first award ceremony, of course, we didn't organize the whole surrounding ourselves. I tried to be really short. So we went somewhere, there was a small festival, they had a program, we invited a jury, they looked at the program, they decided on an award, they gave an award. The award back then was 500 Deutschmark, that's about 250 euros. Everything else, the party cost us also 250 euros. Everybody was working for free, and it was great. And we set, let's say, a copyright for giving an award for editors. And then again, it was 16 years later when I left, we transferred it into the first editing festival. So just being a small award, we went 2 years later, built up our own structure. We started like all the big festivals out there to give awards for best fiction, best documentary, best short film. We even did a retrospective. This is a catalog. It was a 4 days event. I had a staff of 15 people. We had 250,000 budget euros. So I cannot even calculate, you know, how big the growth was. Organizing this award, the first 2 years in the jury, we had Dieter Koslik, who was back then the boss of the Film Fund in NRW. I was in Cologne, he was in Düsseldorf, just to give you a geography. So we're not talking about Berlin yet. And he just knew me. He just knew me, you know, from hanging around, and he saw that there's somebody, you know, with a really knowledge and passion in cinema. And I was once on a panel with me, and he knew that I'm from somewhere out there, from the east, that I'm from Russia, that I speak the language, and that I love the cinema from there. So he then asked me, hey, don't you wanna, you probably heard I'm going to go to Berlin, take over this festival. Don't you want to be, let's say, my man in the East? Don't you want to take care of Eastern European cinema? I was at that age, at that moment, I was 20 something. I took over from somebody who was over 60, who was one of the most experienced person in the industry. Unfortunately, he passed away, Hans-Joachim Schlegel, really great guy. He was a big scholar, but my boss, he brought me along. And I said, but what I'm going to do, I don't know anything. And said, I figured out. So I was really thrown into the cold water. I figured it out, and we did it a great job, and it went along. Why? Because he associated with me with that, let's say, niche that I found. All these years I was doing Berlinale. I started, programming some other festivals, because basically a lot of people were approaching me and they were saying, hey, you are this guy, you know everything about Hungarian, Bulgarian, Russian, Polish cinema, we want to work with you. I'm not gonna, again, stress all the festivals. One thing I want to stress, because it's really suited and it's in the media right now. So this is actually a movie. So once in my life also I said I wanted to try it out. This is a movie called Lost and Found. 6 filmmakers. Nobody knew them back then. They did a short film on a topic, and that topic was basically given by me. It was a topic Lost and Found / the first title was Generation. It was about people like me who basically lived or left their original surrounding, for me being, the post-communistic place, and they somehow had to adapt to the new reality. So basically it was short films by people who were the same age as me, and they were reflecting how did this whole transition influence them. The reasoning I'm mentioning this, 6 filmmakers not known. 2 of them were last night Oscar nominated, but let's not talk about this now. Let's go on to SOFA.
SOFA School of Film Advancement is a training initiative aiming on young cultural entrepreneurs from all over Europe who have projects developed or in development that directs on finding an audience for films. So the range of those projects is very wide, but they all have in common that they are designed for finding the correct audience for special independent films.
SOFA trains cultural entrepreneurs and cultural managers which work within the audiovisual field and want to develop new and innovative projects in the country of origin. So it can be setting up a new film museum, a new festival, of course a VOD platform, any kind of e-learning tool, online connection tools. So it's basically everything that is connected to the art of cinema, but which is not a film itself.
What SOFA will do is to provide mentorship, to get you access to the best practices that are important for your project, to give you critical feedback, and to still make you understand that even if you fail on one part, there is always another door that is opening and you are progressing as a professional.
As the reality as we knew it in the audiovisual sector is changing, and it's up to our participants to come up with great and innovative ideas and structures how to connect European content to the viewers all over Europe and around the world.
I was accepted to SOFA with a project which I called FRONT, which stands for Film Republic of Network Theaters. And it's a project about setting up a network of cinemas across the regions of Lithuania. When I started in SOFA in 2014, we ran a research which showed that over 50% of population of Lithuania didn't have access to cinema. And we decided to solve this problem.
I think SOFA is unique because it really offers cultural manager a platform where they can share their visions for cinema.
We will on one hand work together in face-to-face workshops, and on the other hand we dedicate a lot of time now to develop blended learning.
The mentors in SOFA are coming from very different backgrounds, and they are also very, very experienced people. It's a unique opportunity for any project at any level, and I would say don't hesitate and try it.
Goodbye.
So SOFA, School of Film Advancement, a pan-European training program for cultural managers in the audiovisual sector. This is us. This is our mission. We are a pan-European think tank, a program, an incubator, so to say, that is supporting cultural promoters, let's say cultural managers, to develop the project. And our core idea is always to strengthen the national film and audiovisual industry, and of course always to support also the production of European films. We help our participants to develop very concrete projects, opening new avenues towards application, help them with the financing, and of course the final realization implementation of their project. So we are specifically focused on culture managers and film entrepreneurs rather than on producers, directors, scriptwriters, actors, like many other great programs, training programs out there. Our philosophy is really based on cultural exchange. So believe very much of coming together and exchanging ideas, and be very up to date about possibilities for the future of European cinema. And needless to say that, especially right now, I'm not only talking about Corona, but I'm talking also about all the conflicts in the world. We strongly believe that actually only culture can provide us a long-term understanding of our neighbors and secure peace and stability. So we care very much from the very beginning on in 2013 about gender and diversity balance for our participants, our mentors, and our experts. And especially gender balance is a sensitive issue, and some of our project has actually that as a topic of the projects they came to us. I just want to read out a quote to you by Rolandas, who was our main partner in Lithuania, in Vilnius, and he said last year, the SOFA workshop was born as a great idea for film industry people to think out of the box. Current times made this way of thinking a real necessity. So what is our structure? What do we actually do? During one year, we help our participants in the planning, development, and implementation of their ideas, as mentioned. Once selected, the participants, we usually take up to 10, go to 3 workshops. And the structure is that the first workshop is focused on project development. The second workshop, which is actually coming up next week, is focused on marketing strategy. And the last and final workshop is focused on funding and sponsoring. So you come with a project, you develop in a very first workshop. In the middle workshop, you find ways, how to market, how to position it. And in the last workshop, you leave us with funding, sponsoring ideas. So basically, once you leave us, you can make your project come reality. Besides those 3 workshops, and of course, I'm still talking about the physical world when we started out. Now we do this all, of course, online since a year. But even before Corona, we started just to be more in touch in between e-learning and mentoring sessions. So we have a regular working out loud session, we have regular mastermind session, and we have regular one-on-one meetings. So we just really make sure we basically cover the full academic year, and our participants are always in touch with us, and we follow them anytime, and they can always contact us if they have any questions or doubts. This is us beautiful, still on location, Warsaw. So our participants, who are they and where do they come from? Most of them are audiovisual professionals with already experience in the cultural management. So it can be studies like myself. It can also be on-ground experience. So this is a slide that is the current situation. Right now, we are focusing on Central and Eastern Europe, Central Asia, the republics of Caucasus, Greece, Israel, Germany, and the MENA region. But we are right now in the process to opening up to all of Europe. This is really, as I talk right now, we are finalizing this. And as I know, of course, many of you are from the UK. So when I say all of Europe, we're talking about geographical Europe and not geopolitical Europe. So really, all of you based in UK, you will be able to apply for the next session. So what are the projects? Once again, I really like to repeat this. If you have a script, no matter how great it is, if you have a short film, a documentary, a feature film, we are not the right training. There are magnificent other trainings out there. But if you have, for example, a film festival, a film fund, or a film commission, a VOD platform, or any kind, of course, right now, especially very current, of digital distribution platform. If you want to open up a new cinema, if you want to do a film museum or an archive, any project that is somehow connected to copyright law, a print or online magazine, any kind of training initiative, or basically the most original, of course, and let's say our most successful projects, many of them are actually not there because these are, of course, only the prototypes, let's say, we can relate to because they're already happening. So this is just to give you an impression. These are our current participants from all over Europe and Eastern partnerships. So who are we? This is just a short slide of our counselors. So basically counselors are the people who are always with us the whole year round and are always returning. So we are very happy then from the very first workshop in back then Wroclaw in August 2013, Eva Puszinska is with us. She's an incredible, outstanding producer from Poland, based in Lodz. Sorry, I could never pronounce it. Lodz. She did Ida, which you of course all know, which won the Oscar, and she did Cold War. We have Tamara Tetashvili because we have the upcoming workshop in Georgia. Tamara used to be the head of the Georgian Film Center, representative to Eurimage and EFP, and now she is helping us with SOFA, and she's also the head of training at Medici. We have Christina von Fragstein, a colleague of mine, very established pitching expert, and she was basically the one who set up the Berlinale talents many years ago. We have Renaud, a professor for entrepreneurship from Paris, and this is very interesting because it's going to be his gig next week. He has nothing to do with cinema, so he is really a pure, let's say, hardcore professor for entrepreneurship, and this is how we always see one of the greatest experiences, that somebody not coming from cinema really manages to get, you know, all the details, all the advantages, but honestly also all the disadvantages of the projects. Then it's me. You heard enough about me, and Oliver Baumgarten, somebody I worked 26 years now with, who we started the magazine with, and who is now the artistic director of the Max Ophüls Festival in Saarbrücken, Germany, which is the most important and oldest German-speaking young authors film festival. So our experts, for the first SOFA workshop in Warsaw, we do something very special, and this is kind of unique. We always select for each project the, let's say, best possible experts. So all those names you see, and we have of course a lot more, this is just a selection, are coming usually only once to mentor especially that project. So let's say you want to do a VOD, we get you somebody really experienced in VOD. You want to do something with festival, we get you somebody from festival. You want to do something with setting up, for example, a national film promotion. We had one. We get you somebody who does this. So those experts, everybody of them, just check the names, because I will go over time if I start explaining who everybody is. They really have a very long experience, and of course they always come share their experience, share their own stories, and share the network. So all those people were always very grateful for being part of the SOFA training, not only because they were able to share the knowledge and advance, but they also were getting a lot from the participants. So this I always have to say, it's always, you know, a two-way street. Some of the experts were really thrilled to find out more things about the situation in Tbilisi, in Minsk, in Budapest, not knowing it. So we always see it, you know, that education goes both ways. Our network, you know, there's the old saying that the film industry is a networking industry. And yes, this is true. We managed to, you know, be very present, luckily, all this year at all these events. You see many, of course, specifically important events for our part of the world. But of course, also we would travel to Cannes, Berlin, Venice, basically the big three festivals, just to be present, to promote the idea, to find the experts, which was actually always the easy part, to be very honest here. The difficult part, and then thanks again, Maya, for letting me talk here so long about this, is actually to find the right participants. So finding the right experts is easy, but finding the right participants, this is difficult. And there, you know, the network is even more important. Success stories. Now you might be thinking, oh my God, he's talking already for almost 40 minutes, but does this all work? Luckily, I can say, yes, it does, because we have a very good quote on projects that are getting realized through us or through our help. I will never say that they are only realized because of us, but with some project, and especially the first two, we were really, you know, helping them, and we are really, you know, keeping them on board. So I'm very happy that this year, actually in February, within 1 week, 2 projects were launched. So the first one is End of Year Film. It's by our Greek participant, Vicky. So she participated last year, right? So she had one on-location workshop in Warsaw 2019. Then she had 2 digital workshops, because last year our workshop, the Tbilisi one, was supposed to happen in April and the other one in June. And even so, she had only 1 live and the other 2 digital. She still managed, as we are still in the Corona situation, to kick off her world sales and being in Rotterdam, which is one of the biggest festivals, with a film in the main competition. And this is really incredible. And the second project is Q United Polska, a German-Polish project, which was also developed last year, which also kicked off. We had 2017-18 Fate to Her by Tara from Serbia. This is a website. Tara is a film critic focusing on female filmmakers, not only directors, but it can also be, you know, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. And we're very happy that we're also able to help there. And there really the networking worked in terms of that, for example, one of the experts hired her for a job, and so on and so on and so on. And now the slide is very new. So last week, our Czech participants from 2016-17 actually got awarded with a Czech Golden Lion for extraordinary audiovisual achievement. And believe it or not, they started a film museum in Prague. So we all know that Czech cinema is one of the richest cinematographies in the world. Vera Chytilov, Menzel, Forman, we know them all. That also Prague at the same time is one of the touristic most Frankfurt frequented cities, and they never had a museum. And from a lot of research, we of course know usually people, especially foreigners, tourists like to go as the first thing to a museum. So we are very happy that this project kicked off. We have a Polish project, we have a Hungarian project, Festivalized, which is very interesting, which I like maybe to stress later on. We have sometimes, we have Front, a Lithuanian project. We have another film museum coming from Kiev, and you know what was all going on in Kiev, in the Ukraine, and you can imagine that during those times establishing a film museum was not easy, but Ivan really mentioned it. And last but not least, we had Festival Box Office, and this is something that I mentioned before. Of course, if you see, and here they got a film museum in Kiev or in Prague, this is basically copy paste, right? So it's taking the best case example from London, from Paris, and bringing it to our part of the world. But festival box office was very unique, and it was very innovative idea, because basically this idea was to develop a website that is monitoring worldwide the box office of films going to film festivals. You all know that, of course, there's a classical box office in each country for the cinema release, but there was never a project that was basically focusing on covering all the numbers that occur in the festival world. So we are very happy about that project. Here again, those two great success stories, 29th of January and 1st of February. So we're very, very happy that, again, here, I think this is best proof of concept. During the pandemic, they were able to launch their projects, right? So, and this is where the SOFA training maybe shows its strongest part, that being part of a training, being part of an educational program, we continued urging them, do it. Because of course it's very easy sitting home by themselves and saying, okay, maybe we're gonna wait, we're not sure. And being in the group, you know, having this positive group pressure, this need to perform, to send a new application, to send a new update, to think, to discuss it in the group, really help those two participants. And we are very, very happy for Vicky and Irena that they kicked off, not only for them, you know, as I said, creating your own individual dream jobs, but of course, all those projects running now, they also hire other people. So this is also something that is very important to us, that basically we enable also, and we empower our participants not only to take care of themselves financially, but also of their network. So as mentioned, we are at 67% running projects, 22 still in development, and only 11 projects were dropped. And of this 11 projects, they were only dropped because basically the participants were too busy doing something else. We still believe in the big screen, and we want to have images like this hopefully soon again. Coming to an end, I of course have to thank our great partners. We are very privileged to have two main partners, which are super national, word that I just learned, the Federal Foreign Office of Germany and the Creative Europe Media Program. And then we have local partners in Lithuania, in Poland. So don't sit on the couch. Join us on SOFA. We want you to be with us. Thank you again for listening.